Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Wherever you are, especially if you're here in the sanctuary, and we have people this morning, we are very happy. Turn to your neighbors, wish them Shabbat Shalom, but it's a nice trip. We slowly start to reopen shul and reopen life. We will begin this morning on page 169. It is not we alone who pray. All things pray. Praise. Every creature and every living thing prays. In all life there is longing. Creation itself is but a longing, a prayer to the Almighty. What are the clouds, the rising and the setting of the sun, the soft radiance of the moon, and the gentleness of the night? What are the flashes of the human mind and the storms of the human heart? They are all prayers, the outpouring of boundless longing for God. We continue singing Ma Tovu on page 172. Page 173. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar et ha'adam b'chokhmah, uvaravo nekavim, chalulim, galui v'yadua lifnei chisei chvodecha, she'im yipateach echad mehem, o yisatem echad mehem, efshar lehitkayem la'asot, and within me you sustain it. So long as I have breath, therefore, I will give thanks to you, my God and the God of all ages, source of all being, loving guide of every human spirit.
Baruch atah Adonai, asher b'yado nefesh kol chai, pirok basari na'al.
Pokeach ivrim.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim.
Amen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam. Amen.
That sounds like a new melody, but we've been singing it along with Eleanor's accompaniment with the Elohai. Yep.
For Shabbat.
Right. Page 178, the blessing for the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Adonai our God, make the words of your Torah sweet to us, and to the house of Israel your people, that we and our children may be lovers of your name and students of your Torah. We praise you, O God, teacher of Torah to our people Israel.
Baruch atah Adonai, hamelamed.
Elu devarim she'ein lahem shiur, she'adam ochel peroteihem ba'olam hazeh, v'hakeren kayemet lo la'olam haba. These are things that are limitless, of which morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. We continue with Ashrei, beginning on page 185.
Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, od yahalu chasela.
Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Elohai.
Tehillah leDavid, aromimcha Elohai hamelech, bavarcha shimcha leolam va'ed.
B'chol yom
Lato ein cheker.
dor ledor yeshabach ma'asecha, ugevurotecha yagidu.
Hadar kevod hodecha, v'divrei niflotecha asicha.
Be'ezuz noratecha yomeru, gedulatcha Adonai, erech apayim u'gedol chesed.
Tov Adonai lakol, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav.
Yoducha Adonai kol ma'asecha, v'chasidecha yevarchucha.
Kivod malchutecha yomeru, gvuratecha yedaberu.
Lehodia livnei hadam gevurotav, uchvod hadar malchuto.
Malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor vador.
Somech Adonai lechol hanoflim, v'zokef lechol hakfufim.
Einei kol elecha yesaberu, v'ata noten lahem et ochlam be'ito.
Poteach et yadecha, umasbia lechol chai ratzon.
Sadik Adonai b'chol derach.
Emet.
Ritzon yireav yahaseh, v'et shavatam yishma v'yoshiem.
Shomer Adonai et kol ohavav, et kol hareshaim yashmid. Hallelujah.
V'yikdash merabah,
Vayechon
v'yomechon, uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael, pagalav v'zman kariv, v'imru, Amen. Yesh merabah mevorach, le'olam olam me'almaya,
Yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal
Bechata v'nechemata damiran b'yama.
v'yimeru.
Amen. Please rise.
Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach.
There's a couple words that'll be repeated, but hopefully we'll be able to catch on. It's a popular tune that you might have heard before. Avarabavtanu Adonai Eloheinu Chamla gedola v'teira Chamalta aleinu Ba'avor Yavoteinu ve'imotenu Shabbat gobecha V'telachem aleinu Amrachem rachem aleinu V'ten b'libenu lehavinu haskel lishma Le'lamod u'le'lamed Lishmor ve'lasot u'kayem Et kol dineinu B'toratecha V'dabek libeinu B'mitzvotecha Ve'yached levaveinu V'yava u'yerha Et shemecha Ve'lo nevosh Ve'lo nikalem Ki v'shem kodshecha Hagadol V'ismecha V'yishuatecha Ve'avienu L'shalom Me'arba kanfot ha'aretz V'tolichenu komemiyut Le'artzeinu Ki ha'po al Yeshua ta'ata Imcha gadol Zelah Be'emet Lehodot Lecha Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch hu Baruch Shemo.
Habocher be'amo Yisrael bi'ahava
Amen.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Echad. Le'olam va'ed.
Please be seated. Page 201.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך תהילות יאי ביי ביי בים בים בם יא ביי ביי בים בם יאי ביי ביי בים בים בם יא ביי ביי בים בם יא ביי ביי בים בם שירה חדשה שבכל גאולים שירה חדשה שבכל גאולים לשמחה לשמחה השפת הים לשמחה אז ביי ביי בים בים בם יא ביי ביי בים בם איי 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 יא ביי ביי בים בם איי 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 יא ביי ביי בים בם יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד בם יא ביי ביי בים בם יאי ביי ביי בים בים בם יא ביי ביי בים בם איי 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 יא ביי ביי בים בם איי 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 יא ביי ביי בים בם Zur Yisrael, Kuma B'Ezrat Yisrael, U'Edecha Numecha, Yehuda v'Yisrael, Go'alenu, Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch at Adonai,
Baruch Shemo.
Ga Yisrael.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufia ki tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Golnel Chasadim Tovim, V'konel Ozer Moshiach Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, רופא חולים אמונתו, לישני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדום מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים ברואים. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היה נביאך, וקרא זה ואמר, קדוש, קדוש, קדוש. לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריאת עולם. לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריאת עולם. בני ובני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות, כי ששת
B'nei Hashavat L'dorotam B'ridolam V'shamro B'nei Yisrael Et HaShabbat L'asot Et HaShabbat L'dorotam B'ridolam.
Is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week, we live under the tyranny of things of space. On Shabbat, we try to become attuned to holiness in time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world.
Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch hu baruch shemo.
V'kadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, ve'amcha
Na'avot. And now the rabbi will join me on the piano on page 213 with Modim Anachnu Lach. Now turn to page 216 for our Psalm for Peace, Sim Shalom.
This is not discussed in the Talmud.
No.
A rabbi should do this when the rabbi needs to switch from
Yeah.
piano to
Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Chen B'Chesed V'Rachamim V'Rachamim Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yisrael Amecha, Marchecha, Kivior Panecha Natata Lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Chen B'Chesed V'Rachamim V'Rachamim Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yisrael
Shemo.
המברכת עמו ישראל בשלום.
Amen. We take a few moments now to pray or meditate in silence.
Please bless us, always be near, watching wherever we go. Shine down your kindness, show us the way through every path unknown. Guide shelter, fill us with the gift of a peace. Yevarechecha Adonai, me'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha.
Floated in the Dead Sea is the what you see across from the Israeli side in Jordan. Those mesas, also called the steppes of Moab in the Torah, that is the ancient kingdom of Moab. Israel at them in the southern Negev, they are heading toward the promised land. We are nearing the end of their journey. We're in the 40th year. They have been told last week that they cannot go through the kingdom of Edom or the kingdom of Ammon, and now they are approaching the kingdom of Moab. You would probably worry yourself if you were Balak, king of Moab, when you saw 2 million Israelites heading your way through the wilderness, that they could be troublemakers. And so Balak decides on a plan. He is going to get a prophet to come and curse Israel as they approach. That prophet is the Midianite prophet Balaam. We don't know a lot about him until this that was incorporated into the Torah. And there's a couple of interesting things that I found in the parasha that might be relevant for us besides the talking donkey, which makes this one of the funnier stories in Torah, which will actually be the section we're reading this morning. The first is God as a parent. And for those of you who were at our Monday night study of children of children, when should I tell them what to do, or should I let them figure it out? Kinds of gold and silver. Look, I can only say what God allows me to say. So don't count on much. I'll do my best. Headquarters, and takes the night, and God appears to him and says, don't go. Do not go and do this thing. You can't curse Israel. They're my people. Balaam's like, all right, whatever you say. Next morning, God says, well, go ahead, but only say what I tell you to say. And then finally, when we get to our section, Balaam is ready to go. He's been offered all kinds of gold and silver. He's riding his donkey on the way to one of those steps, those large mesas from which he can see all of a sudden God changes God's mind, wants to stop him, puts an angel with a sword in front of Balaam and his donkey. Only one problem. Balaam can't see the angel. Only the donkey can see it. And this is part of the funny, this is the funny here, and also a way to make Balaam kind of look like an idiot, or at least someone whose eyes have not been opened. But, as we're going to read in a few moments, the donkey to go straight. At a certain point, they get into a very narrow alley, and as the donkey is trying to swerve to either side to avoid the angel with the sword, he keeps crushing Balaam's feet against the walls. Balaam is beating him, and finally they get to a narrow enough spot, the donkey can't go anywhere. Can't really figure out how to go backwards, can't move forwards, there's nowhere to go to the side, so what is him and beating him? And then finally the donkey talks. Am I the donkey you've been riding all this time? Well, what's the deal? All of a sudden, Balaam's eyes are opened, he sees the angel and realizes that God has sent an angel to try and stop him, but instead of saying, go back, the angel once again gives the message, you can go, but do what I tell you to do. And I think God here is struggling with what many of us struggle with, is how much move people around at will. I've got to let them make their own decisions. And if Balaam is going to go do this, then I got to let him go and see what happens. Blessing, including some that we started our service with this morning, Matovu, which are the rabbis decided to put in the Siddur as part of every morning service. They liked his words so much. Balaam, Moab. So Balak's plan has backfired. I was struck bodies at the residential schools now in at least 3 provinces, and I know that we know there will be more. And what he said is that we are all surprised and shocked, but we really shouldn't be, because this is not news. This is something we knew about all along, and only now. And so I am thinking this morning about how Balaam is kind of blind to the fact that if he'd thought this through, he should have known full well that this was not the way God wanted things to be. That when he was asked to curse Israel, knowing God, he just should never have set out at all. But once he did, God had to kind of let him make his own mistake here. In fact, he ends up prevailing and blessing Israel. But for us, news to us. The question is, when do we need to open our eyes and realize what was wrong all along? Because only then can we work to fix things. And so Balaam ends up with the chance to do that, them as a community to heal, and thus to heal our own nation. We'll be reading this morning from chapter 12, verses 22. Actually, it's verse 21. Vayakom Bilam baboker vayachavo Elohim ki holechu vayityatev malach Adonai baderech lesatan lo vehu rochev el alatono ushnei na'arav imo Vatere ha'aton et malach Adonai min haderech vatelech basadeh vayach bilam et ha'aton lehatota hadarech vayamod malach Adonai b'mishon et malach Adonai Vatilachet et hakir, vatilchat et regel malach Adonai avor, vayamod b'makom tsar asher ein derech lintot yamin u'smol. Vatere ha'aton et malach Adonai, v'tirbat kani ze shalosh regalim. Vayomer Bilam la'aton, ki hitalalt bi, lu yesh cherev biadi, ki ata haragtich. Vatomer ha'aton el Bilam, halo anochi atoncha, asher achavta alai, meodcha adako et enei Bilam, v'hayar et malach Adonai nitzav baderech, v'charvo shlufa beyado, vayikod vayishtachu le'apav. Vayomer elav malach Adonai alma, hikita et aton chaze shalosh regalim, hine anochi yatzati lesatan, ki yarat haderech lenegdi. Vatirani ha'aton vatet lefanai ze shalosh regalim, ulai nateta mipanai, ki ata gam odcha haragti beota hecheiti. Vayomer Bilam el malati, ki ata imra be'einecha ashuvali. Vayomer malach Adonai el Bilam, lech im ha'anashim ve'efes, et hadabar asher adaber elecha oto tedaber, vayelech Bilam im sarei balak.
Yesher koach.
Baruch tieh. When he arose in the morning, Balaam saddled his ass and departed with the Moabite, took a position in his way as an adversary. The word for adversary here, satan, where we get the times. It is I who came out as an adversary, for the errand is obnoxious to me. And when the ass saw me, she shied away because of me, though her. Balaam said away, if you still disapprove, I will turn back. But the angel of the Eternal said to Balaam, go with those envoys, but you may not say nothing except what I tell you. So Balaam went on with Balak's dignitaries. We turn to page 253 as we take a moment to offer a Mishaberach for those in need of healing, for those who lie on beds of pain at home or in hospital, for those searching for recovery from COVID-19 or its after effects, or for those struggling to imagine returning to normal life and are facing those anxieties. If anyone has the name of a loved one for whom our healing prayer might bring comfort, please share their name aloud here.
Perach avoteinu mekor habracha li'amotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Emotenu, mekor habracha, li'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Along this morning, beginning on page 1070, is the story of Balak and Balaam unravel. The Torah portion in the Haftarah, Micah actually mentions the story of Balak and Balaam in verse 5 of chapter 6. We'll be reading from the beginning of chapter 6. And the Haftarah ends with some pretty famous words that when I started my rabbinate in Hartford, Connecticut, were over the doors of the synagogue. So every time I walked in every morning, this is what I saw. Higid lecha adam ma tov u'ma Adonai doresh mimcha. You have been told, O mortal, what is good and what the Eternal requires of you. Ki im asot mishpat ve'ahavat chesed ve'hatznea lechet im Elohecha. Only this, to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Cantor will lead us this morning. Blessings before, Haftarah on page 254. Blessings after in the inside back cover of your Siddur.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratzav v'divreihem hanemorim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'torah v'moshavto u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'nviei ha'emet בצדק באות קולך שימו הרים את ריב אדוני והאיתנים עמוסי הארץ כי ריב אל אדוני עמו ועם ישראל יתווכח עמי עשיתי לך אומה Ella eticha anevi ki eliticha shlach levanecha et Moshe Aaron uMiriam ami zchorna mayat Balak melech Moab ומענה אותו בלעם בן באור מן השישים עד הגלגל למען דעת צדקות אדוני במקדמנו ועולות בגלים בני שנה האתן בקורי פישאי פריביתני חטאת נפשי יגיד לך תמתו ומאדוני דורש ממך כי מסוד משפט ואהבת חסד והצנע לכת עם אלוהיך. To the mountains, let the hills hear your voice. Hear the case of the Eternal, you mountains, give ear, you foundations of the earth. The Eternal has a case against our people and will contend with Israel. My people, what wrong have I done to Egypt, redeemed you from the house of bondage, and sent Moses, Aaron, and Miriam to lead you? My people, remember Shittim to Gilgal, and you will understand God's victorious acts. With what should I come to the Eternal and bow down before God on high? Should I come before God with burnt offerings, with yearly calves? Would the Eternal be pleased with thousands for my transgression? And what the Eternal requires of you? Only this. שכל דבריו אמת וצדק נאמן אתה הוא אדוני כי המלך נאמן ורחמן אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הנאמן בכל דבריו רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו ולעלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון בבניה. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו ויגל ליבנו על כיסאו לא ישב זר ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה לכבוד ולתפארת כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני.
Prayers for our congregation, our country, and Eretz Israel, beginning on page 258.
Source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us. Love of Torah be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction. and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding. Levadcha be'ira. Awaken the spirit of love, peace, and friendship among all the inhabitants of our country. Purify our hearts from any hatred and enmity, so that Canada remains true to its values and stands as a strong model for other nations. Teach us to give thanks for what we have, all to appreciate the plurality of Canadian ways of living and our varied paths towards seeking meaning. At Temple Heart Zion, we acknowledge that we are situated on traditional territories and treaty lands. Pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And each one shall sit under the vine and under the fig tree, and none shall be afraid. And let us say, Amen.
Koach Brina, your last chance as president. Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula l'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gora u'mishpacha hakadosh baruch hu. שהונות השמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים עמו, ושכינתו זו, בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו העליון, מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת.
Understanding, loved but to conquer fear for all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום אחד.
Please be seated. Page 291. יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ואינם. There are stars up above. Lillian Leah Gollum, Sylvia Gordon, Sylvia Grossman Maker, Loretta Hecklershine, Anna Milgram, Maxima Nassau, Benjamin Newstead, Kitty Neeren Safran, Esther Salem, Rita Siegel, Mary Schendroff, Morton Stancer, Sylvia Teitelbaum, Ann Usprich, Ethel Ward, Ada Yacht, and Julia York perished in the Shoah. Marie Gotlarechova, Alphonse Grunbaum, Olga Grunbaumova, Olga Gutova, Ruzhens Hakanova, Carol Hecht, and Zdenek, their name aloud. We ask those observing Shiva, Shloshim, Avelut, the year, rise here or wherever you are. We remember too at this time those members of our armed forces who have died fighting overseas, our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael who have died in so many wars, and all the innocent people who have lost their lives to violence, conflict, hatred, the chaos of nature, or neglect, as together we pray. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach irutei v'yamayed, v'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha, brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah amin shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom bimromav, huya asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And together for all the tech work, we thank you for that. Thank you, everybody who came this morning. We're only about half capacity, so people are welcome to sign up. Our Back to Shul committee will be meeting Tuesday night to talk about further progress. And morning minyan services are held via Zoom, Sunday at 9 a.m., Tuesday at 7:15 a.m., Monday at noon. Sip and Schmooze continues, and I believe it does throughout the summer. Monday at 7:30 p.m., the last of our series of Jewish musicals you've never heard of. This week we'll take a look at Jason Robert Brown and Alfred Uri's Parade. Torah study next Shabbat morning at 9 with Rabbi Bill Tepper. I will be away most of July, partly holidays and partly 10 days at Camp George. So we have Rabbi Tepper, we have some members filling in. You are in Cantor Littman's capable hands for the month. Eleanor will be back at some point, I think. Yeah. All right. Register today to book your spot on the green for the 24th annual THZ Dick Grimm Memorial Golf Classic. If you don't golf, you can still buy a raffle ticket and have a chance to win some great prizes. If you do golf, I have a new pair of pants that I've been waiting to wear since, I guess, 2 years ago's. Go to our e-blast for details, links to them. Cantor mentioned something to me about mentioning that this is Brina's last Shabbat as president, but I think it's also important to mention that this is your last Shabbat of your first year at Temple Har Zion. Wow. So you have made it. You survived one of the weirdest first years a clergy person can possibly have. This may be the largest crowd you've been with so far.
It's really nice to have people here.
It really is. And Cantor, we are just so pleased that you are with us. You've brought us so much already. And think of what you'll be able to do when we're finally back in person, as we're starting to be. So Mazel Tov, Yasher Kohen, line up to come in person too, so you can get to meet and get to know the Cantor. So with that, we will conclude this morning singing Adon Olam on page 321.
Adon Olam asher malach b'terem lo ira
Adonai li velo ira. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.